welcome back to Madness in the Method, the podcast where we talk about Nicolas Cage and how he has transformed from a mere actor to some sort of otherworldly being that he is kind of becoming nowadays. That was a weird one. I freestyled that one. But this is the podcast where we talk about Nicolas Cage and Nicolas Cage movies. And my name is Tobias, and with me as always is my friend and trusted co-host, Christopher.
Hello everyone.
Hello. And I just want to actually, before we get this over with in the beginning, if you like this podcast, thank you so much for listening. And if you want to support it even more than just listening and following us on whatever platform you're listening to this on, we have a Patreon page. It's patreon.com/don'tmakeascene. There's a link down below where you can get early access to the episodes. You also get exclusive episodes of my other podcast, Spoilercast, where we talk about various new movies. But you also get monthly commentary tracks, and you get a say in what we talk about on the other podcast. There's a bunch of stuff for just $3 a month. So if you want to support us, please check that out. Other than that, thanks so much for listening, and let's get on with the show. Because today we're talking about a little bit of a special movie. We're talking about the Charlie Kaufman written Adaptation.
Yeah, directed by Spike Jonze.
Yes. But this is definitely a Charlie Kaufman movie.
Well, yeah. So you hadn't seen this before, right?
I'd not seen it before. I have like a not love-hate, but love-don't really care relationship with Charlie Kaufman. Because the movies I have seen, I have for the most part liked. I struggled with his last movie. I was like, what is this actually about? But I figured it out eventually. I think we talked about that, or maybe that was my other podcast. Either way. But I also think that he can sometimes be a little too, quirky, up his own ass, pretentious. Mm-hmm. So, I was interested in watching this, since this was super meta. I mean, he was writing about himself writing a script. So, yeah. I was interested, but I wasn't sure I was going to love it. You had seen it, right?
Yeah, so when I was in film school, this is a very film school movie.
Yes, it is.
A friend of mine told me, because I had seen In the Head of John Malkovich movie.
Yeah, I think it's called Being John Malkovich.
Yeah, Being John Malkovich.
Yeah,
that's the name in English. Yeah, so that movie, and I was not a big fan of it. I didn't really. I thought it was just quirky to be quirky, and it didn't really make any sense. So I was talking about that, and then she told me, "Well, you should really see Adaptation. That's one of Kaufman's best movies." And this is, way back. So it
should be like 2006, 7, 8 sometime, I guess.
Yeah.
From school, yeah.
And I don't think that Eternal Sunshine was out by then. No, it was.
It was, yeah.
So I think that's the better movie. Anyway, so I saw it back then, and I was again very confused. It's better than Being John Malkovich. I thought back then, but I wasn't really sure. It left an impression, but I couldn't decipher what that impression was. Put it like that.
yeah. Hey, you know what? That sounds like a Charlie Kaufman experience.
Yeah. So I was going into this movie with hopes of. First of all, I remember it positively, so I was it's gonna be pretty good, and maybe this time I'll get it. So.
Yeah.
And you went in, and what did you think of it? Apprehension.
I liked it quite a bit. This might be my favorite. I know it's my favorite Charlie Kaufman script.
Oh, okay.
I don't know which ones he directed or not that I've seen, so I'll just say his script, like his movie, so to speak. Because it's like, for all its weird quirks and like non-linear storytelling, it's actually pretty easy to follow. Because it's there's not these like super weird concepts. I mean, it's just a guy writing a screenplay, and he's struggling with writer's block while his sort of like less pretentious brother, twin brother, is just like finishing a script in weeks and getting it sold and like being successful, and then intercutting, the parts of the script that ends up in the script actually being filmed.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, the plot isn't really complicated.
Exactly.
But the concept is complicated.
The concept is a little complicated.
Because we're like 4 or 5 levels deep in this movie. So the movie, for people who haven't watched it, is about it's about all of this, but from the beginning, it's about a woman who wrote an article about a court case about someone stealing endangered orchids from wetlands.
Yeah.
She then got asked to write a book about this person.
Yeah, expanding the article into a book.
Yeah. So she does that, and then that book is sold to make a movie, and Charlie Kaufman is hired to write that movie, and we are watching the movie that he is writing in the movie.
Like, that happened for real, but it's also the plot of this movie.
Yeah. So and then we are intercutting between all these layers. Well, obviously, except the last one, because that's the actual movie.
Yeah, that's the actual movie. So there's really only 2 layers. There is the fictional Charlie Kaufman writing the script for this movie, and then we see some of the scenes that he's writing being shown to us with actors that also, though, play the real characters later in the movie, because they kind of meld fiction and reality towards the end.
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of funny, but...
And then there's this thing that Charlie Kaufman has issues with when he's writing the movie, is that the book that she wrote, that one intercuts with sort of small stories and small tidbits.
Yeah, she goes on tangents.
Yeah, tangents. So that's also sort of a level of going on these tangents, and so the concept is hard to explain, but when you actually watch it, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it makes sense for the most part, and I think the funniest thing is that because he couldn't figure out, that's the whole thing. He can't figure out how to turn this into a like regular 3-act movie structure, because the book isn't like, it's a non-fiction book. It's a dissertation on this person, the orchid thief. It's not really, it doesn't have a beginning, middle, and an end. It's a character piece, which I guess you could kind of turn it into a movie, but you still need certain things in a movie, which, they get to later, that just isn't in the book. And also, what I've read about the book, I didn't have time to read the book, obviously, but is that was like the main criticism it got, that it's a great article, but as a book... it doesn't really work.
There isn't enough.
And so she goes on even longer tangents in the book to kind of fill it out, and there is no real ending, and that's why Charlie Kaufman is struggling so to try and like make this into a coherent movie. Like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? And that is what we're seeing. But then he keeps having pressure from the studio trying to finish it. I think at the first point there's been like 13 weeks, and he hasn't really shown them a single page because he's barely written anything. Yeah.
Yes.
And I love that. Then he, in the movie, in the fiction of this story, he has written himself a twin brother, Donald Kaufman, which doesn't exist in real life, real life. And he sort of like pushes all these, because let's face it, he's kind of a pretentious writer. He's kind of a pretentious guy. Not in a bad... Pretentious in the right sense of the word, pretension, or pretense. So, when people start giving me ideas like, how to fix it, and even some of the ideas that the writer of the book, I don't remember her name, that she thought they were going to put in there, like, they're going to put in car chases and explosions to turn it into a movie. Those are the kind of ideas that he keeps struggling with, that he doesn't want to put in the movie. He doesn't want to make it a regular movie. He wants to make it a movie about flowers and orchids. So all these, but still those ideas start creeping in because he's trying to just make it into a movie. And he, instead of like struggling with those ideas himself, he puts those ideas onto this fictional twin brother of his. Because he writes a very generic like police thriller movie. That's the whole thing that he's doing in the movie. And he's not struggling at all. He finished it very quick, and Charlie thinks it's banal, and everyone writes this. You should do something different. Try to explore other themes. And he's like, no, this is what people want. And when he eventually pitches it to Charlie's agent, he's like, this is the best script I've ever read. And I'm like, oh no, damn it! See, like everything that Charlie is trying to get away from in his Orchid Thief script, is what really people want to see. And funnily enough, when the fiction and reality sort of melds together in the third act, he puts in every one of those things. There is sex, there is drugs, there's a car chase, there are guns. The only thing we don't get is an explosion, but basically we get all of it. And honestly, like, as fun as the movie was up until that point, the third act is really exciting.
And that's sort of the point, because they say that just at the beginning of the third act, when he talks about Charlie Kaufman goes to a riding coach because he's struggling. And riding coach
a riding coach that his brother had been to his seminar before.
Oh yeah, and the riding
that's
coach.
That's how we got the idea for the script he wrote.
The last thing he says to Charlie is, "Well, if you just sell the last act, if you just sell them on the last act, if the last act is great, no one's gonna care about the problems of the beginning of the movie, and it's gonna be a big hit." Yeah, and that's sort of what happens. And you really you just was a good example of that when you're like, the last act was really good. I like this movie.
Yeah, it is, because not only because it's more exciting with car chase and shooting and thing, because there is a resolution to the story. Because you have Charlie and Donald, who has not really seen eye to eye, or I guess Charlie hasn't seen eye to eye with Donald. Donald seems very nice, if a little, pushy maybe. I don't know, a little much. They really, since they go on this fiction/reality mission to like spy on the author to see what she's doing now, years after writing the book. And that's when they see her doing drugs and having sex with the guy from the book, and they get shot at with rifles and guns and stuff. They kind of bond over that, and because all of this is happening, and Charlie's aware that they're basically in the third act of a regular thriller, he realizes the power of that kind of writing. That that it's kind of cathartic, and the fact that you have an ending to the story is it's important to a story. Sure, it might not have to be as cliche as this becomes. I mean, cliche because they made it cliche, not the movie is not cliche in any way. But using these cliches, it helps to make a movie. So I think it's a very, very, very interesting way to kind of both deconstruct, but also look at the creative process from a outside perspective almost. It's very, very interesting and very entertaining, especially for someone who likes the whole creative process of movies, not just watching movies.
Yeah, so it is a very interesting movie. I can't imagine how to even begin to write a movie like this. Just the twists and turns throughout the movie, and to make everything sort of work together at the end. That's insane.
Yeah, go on. Sure.
But I would say, unfortunately, I like the movie. I like the movie, but it has this problem, which I think is a personal thing, but it is a saying that just because you acknowledge the faults doesn't mean the faults disappear. And I think this movie has a lot of faults, but just because Andy or Charlie Kaufman says in the movie, "Oh, this is a fault," that doesn't mean the fault disappear. Just because he says in the movie that it's boring and doesn't go anywhere, that doesn't mean it isn't boring at times. And again, with the end, where just because they say, sell him on the last act, make an exciting last act, it's gonna be a good movie. Just because they say that doesn't make the last act any more or any less cliche and So, I mean, it's a good movie. It's an interesting movie in a writing perspective, but watching it, it's at times kind of boring. At times, I'm getting sort of a few times I started looking on things on my phone because it's just okay, here it goes again on a monologue about him being bad at writing. Okay, cool. I get it. Move on. And at the end, it is exciting, but it also shows very clearly that he is not an action writer. It's not that interesting, even though it's very exciting comparably to the 1.5 hour of nothing we just saw before.
To be fair, he didn't direct the action; he just wrote it. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and I said he's not he's not an action writer. That's what I said.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry.
And it shows because it's just him ducking behind the wall, and then people talking, and then they drive, and they go into a swamp. I don't know. So yeah, I do like the movie, but there are a lot of flaws with it, and I think it's more interesting to think about, it's more interesting to talk about than actually watching it. That's my critique of the movie, I think.
All right, but that's kind of because I think that because the whole thing just because you're acknowledging the cliches doesn't make it right to use cliches. But I think since he is stating the movie's kind of like a video essay, like talking about the problems with screenwriting.
Oh, yeah.
So I think he kind of have to use the cliches to make the example. And he does it in a funny way where, reality / fiction turns into a typical third act like resolution. So and I also think that it could be because you've seen it before that you were expecting it. Maybe you didn't remember, but I'm just thinking because it took me a while to realize that, wait a minute, they're in the third act of a generic thriller, and I was like, that's fucking hilarious. I didn't realize that until, like, when they started following them out into the swamp after they had spied on her in her office.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit, that's what they're doing! Because it happened so organically, and that it was because you were kind of in on the joke, almost. That got exciting in that way as well. I just wanted to see, like, how far are they going to push this? Like, oh my god, it's an actual car chase.
Yeah, I don't think I really got... I didn't really get it until, like, after the movie. The end credits,
okay.
That they did that thing. Because, again, I should say, it is very massively written to go from a guy who has problem with writing to a shootout in a swamp.
Yeah.
You don't really notice the sort of the steps you got there.
Yeah, how it becomes more and more surreal and turns into a movie, basically.
Yeah, it's a small step that is a lot of small steps that every step seems, this is reasonable until you realize this is absurd.
Yeah.
And I mean, so yeah, he is a good writer. We all know this. He's a masterful writer.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this is a lot of, and also that's probably a part of the metaphor, I guess I say with a sigh, that it's a very self-masturbatory movie, and that's sort of what the character Charlie Kaufman does throughout the entire movie. So I guess that's
there's something to that. Yeah, I didn't think of it like that, but yeah, he's literally masturbating.
Yeah,
but he is very critical of himself, so I don't think it's too much, jerking himself off. I think that's just, like I said, a metaphor. But yeah.
So yeah, but it is. I would say that everyone should watch the movie if you have any interest in just the creation of a movie, the writing or the direction or any of that. It's very interesting in that point, and it really makes you think of things. I mean, it is definitely a good movie, but I don't think it's in my taste.
No, yeah, exactly. And that's. I recently talked on my other podcast about that. We discussed The Northman. And my sister said, like, yeah, she saw all the good aspects of the movie, the filmmaking, but it wasn't really her kind of subject matter. So she was like, eh. And that's that's valid criticism, because criticism is subjective. But let's talk a little bit. Let's talk about Nicolas Cage.
Okay.
Because this is a Nicolas Cage podcast, so we gotta.
What?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because I read something about that. We talked about his process, like where he kind of he gets into the character and he makes it his own. He creates this larger than life performance more than acting. But I read that for once in his career, basically, he actually listened to the director and kind of reined himself in a little bit to actually just try to accurately portray Charlie Kaufman. And interestingly, he was nominated for an Oscar for it. So I just wanted, what did you think of? Did you notice any of that, or had you read about that?
No, I did not read about it, and I think that's you get it because you don't get the Nicolas Cage in this movie.
No,
really
he's
at all.
very.
In this movie, he's just a good actor portraying a role.
Yeah, it's more of an impersonation than performing or acting.
So I would say my thoughts on that trivia is first of all makes sense from what I've seen in the movie that explains it. The other one, I think that's impressive that he allows himself to do that, to say, okay, in this movie I'm actually portraying a real person, so I have to not do what I usually do. And I'm just gonna go for what they want me to do.
Yeah,
so I think that's commendable to have that state of mind. And third of all, he does a great job.
He's fucking great. There's a lot of good performances in this one. I thought, in particular, Chris Cooper was great as the orchid thief, whatever his name was, because he played so against the character he usually plays. He's usually very buttoned up, kind of,
stoic.
Quiet and stoic. Yeah, and here he was like this. He was basically a Florida man, literally a Florida man, with missing teeth, and he had all these weird projects, and he basically used Indians to poach orchids in the swamps. It was a wonderful character, which he was kind of an asshole, but I can see why the writer, the author of the original article and book became fascinated with him and did this whole article and book about him. It's weird character that you kind of get transfixed on.
Did you notice that one of the Indians is same character from Windtalker?
Yeah, it's Nicolas Cage's not White Horse, the other one. Or is it White Horse?
No, it is White Horse. It is White
Horse.
Okay.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. I saw that. I was like, I know that name. All right.
And I did, because that's interesting, because he, apparently from what I read, we didn't talk about that in Windtalker episode, but apparently he was not an actor in Windtalker.
No, he was there to, help them with
the accuracy of
the
people.
Navajo language, I think it was.
Yeah, Navajo. Yeah. So and then he just got roped in to be an actor. So it's interesting that he went from that and maybe I'm an actor now, and then did this the same year.
He went from John Woo to Charlie Kaufman in the same year. That's pretty good.
That's a good thing to have in your resume.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And Spike Jonze.
Oh yeah, of course. But going back to Nicolas Cage, I think maybe one of the reasons why he chose to maybe try to not experiment and actually follow the director here was because he is portraying the writer of the material that he's performing. So I think he wanted to, and I know that this is the thing they say in interviews, but it felt genuine in when he said it this time. He read the script and he thought it was this was really something special. This is not just a movie he did because, I like making movies. I can experiment and have fun. No, this was something that he really, really thought was, this is going to be something. So maybe he wanted to be more respectful towards the material. And another sign of a professional, a great professional actor to realize where he has to rein himself in to make the material justice.
Yeah, and he was he was just great in this role. He must have put on some pounds for this role, right?
No, he wore a fake belly.
Oh, he did. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Oh, 'cause that you don't see that at all.
No, he might. There's a kind of couple of shirtless scenes. He might have put some weight on, but for the most part, he's wearing like a fake belly full of. I think it was like lentils to give it that like jiggly thing.
Okay.
And because of the thing, he's actually sweating in the movie. That's his real sweat because it was so heavy. So I read that the lentils actually started sprouting in the fake belly. Speaking of the life of a flower, or the life of a plant. Very philosophical.
Because I was thinking he's been playing like action movie heroes for like
he's been in good shape for the last like 10 years, and now what the hell? But yeah, it was a fake belly.
So he didn't do a Christian Bale.
Christian Bale, yeah, no, he's not stupid. And then I this might be, I mean, for me, it's always going to be Vampire's Kiss and then Leaving Las Vegas. And I know, well, I guess Pig is up there now, but this is one of my favorite performances I've seen him do so far.
Yeah, it's definitely one of his best performances.
Yeah.
Again, not my favorite movie or best movie, but performance-wise, yeah, one of his best. And it's it's just you sort of forgot it was Nicolas Cage throughout this performance.
Yeah, he really became. I've only seen like a few clips and interviews with Charlie Kaufman, and he definitely doesn't do the voice. But I mean, the mannerisms are there definitely. So he makes it his own character, but it's also a very good like version of Charlie Kaufman. So I did like going back to more like the movie in general. I like everything about this movie. I really don't have anything to complain about. Maybe it meanders a little bit in the middle, but I don't think the movie is long enough to get boring, because there's like there's like an hour of him struggling to write and him constantly procrastinating and having this thing where every woman he meets he has a like sexual fantasy about, which was very funny. Because it felt like, it really felt like he was kind of, because that's like what you do in your teenage years, not when you're like pushing 40, but he's still in that because he's so neurotic, like he can't let go of that like feeling. So I thought that was, and just the fact that Charlie Kaufman, which I think this, like I said, I haven't seen all of his movies, but this feels like this the most personal of his scripts because he's literally writing about himself. And sure, he's making some stuff up, but it's clearly like him dealing with his demons. Yeah, so to be that honest is very, very, very interesting and entertaining.
Yeah, it definitely is. Like he's writing, and he sort of says that at the end of the movie too. I think that he's writing the version of himself that he has in his head, he thinks he is, even though he maybe factually knows it's not true. That he isn't like this. He isn't balding for once, for one thing.
Yeah.
and like things like he is. Yeah, he's neurotic and he thinks these things, and he's probably not going around sweating profusely everywhere.
Yeah, and he's like, from what I've seen at least in later clips, like he's not fat at all. He's kind of gangly, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a great like portrait of a like severely neurotic person. So I think it's very, very, I don't want to say brave, but it's very good that he writes it so honestly. Like this is what I see. Do you understand the problems I have? There's something wrong with me. And I thought that was going back to like I said, I loved that aspect of the movie. Just like I loved pretty much every aspect of the movie, but I still, just to kind of skip ahead to the end here, I still wouldn't give it like a perfect score, and I think that might be because of the subject matter, because it was the like I said, I loved everything about it, but the only thing it wasn't was like emotionally engrossing. I was never like I was never feeling like, other than laughing because it's funny, I didn't get any like huge swells of emotion like anger or sadness or joy or anything. So I guess that's what's holding it back from being like a perfect movie, but on a technical level and on an entertainment level, it's one of the better movies I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, I think that's my biggest gripe with the movie, is that it is not emotionally involving, and it never tries to be, except maybe at the very end with Donald.
Yeah.
Maybe. But and that's sort of, again, this is a movie for him to exercise his demons, and what am I doing here? Can you?
Yeah.
I have no part in this. I have no. Why are you showing me this? That's sort of.
That's true, and I mean that in a way.
That's sort of what I meant before, where it's self-masturbatory. That he just needs to get this out, and it's just okay, good for you. But I mean, I have nothing to gain from this more than maybe it's interesting from a screenwriting perspective, just to make all these connections and how to put yourself in a script and make it believable and all of these things. But other than that, it's just. I don't know. It's a weird one.
Yeah, as a movie, it does falter a little bit. But I just thought of it right now because of what you're saying. Because the movie starts with him saying he doesn't want to write a regular, classic kind of movie.
Yeah.
And that's why he's struggling so, because he just won't conform to the 3-act structure, so to speak. And instead, the movie becomes this character portrait that doesn't really go anywhere until the 3rd act, when he does put in those things. So in a way, because that was the struggles he had in real life, that's why he chose to write a movie about writing a movie instead of writing the movie he was supposed to write. Even though he managed to squeeze in like adaptations, or scenes that are adapted straight from the book. So he managed to squeeze in the weird kind of exploratory structure he wanted to put in there, that he wanted to write. He also managed to adapt at least some of the book, and he made the more straightforward, classic, structured movie that the producers and his managers wanted. And he got it all in a movie that, even if you don't love it, works. Like, everything about it works. So yeah, while it might not be the most entertaining movie ever, and it kind of feels a little like, what is going on here? He still managed to do something pretty unique.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So,
but it's not fun.
Well, I thought it was fun. I laughed a lot.
Oh, well.
I know what you mean. Like, it's not entertaining for a general audience. They would hate this movie.
This is sort of like one of those. This movie is sort of one of those math problems that people are trying to figure out for generations and decades. And then someone, these weird math problems.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And then someone figures out, and you're like, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
now what?
But yeah.
Everything you're saying is that he did it. Okay.
No, yeah, but the thing is, if you're the one who figures it out, and I mean, everyone can figure it out because it's a movie, so you figure it out when you're watching it. It's not like, one person figured the movie out and then they told everybody. So I think that's part of the enjoyment of the movie. You get to figure it out as you're watching it.
No, I mean what you described, that he figured out to put all of these specific things in one script. That he figured out to make everyone sort of satisfied, even though nobody should have been.
Nobody was 100%.
That's what I mean with the math problem. Like, the script is the math problem. That he figured out a way to put in a 3-story structure without the 3-story structure, with action, but not with action, and also a faithful adaptation of the book. He figured how to put all of that together in this math problem thing, but maybe it should just stay there. maybe we shouldn't have made a movie about it. Maybe we just put it in a museum and say, "Yeah, he figured it out in the script. Look, cool." Cool, huh?
Yeah. But that's also part of the like meta quality of it, because this was it was a writer for hire job, so he had to turn something in, and this is what he had, and they thought it was interesting enough to actually turn it into a movie instead of just like firing him and giving it to another writer.
Yeah, there are also these things that he sort of it's sort of he has a sort of despises himself and the audience in a way, because he keeps just saying things like, again, the writing coach guy says, whatever you do, don't put voiceovers in your movie. This movie's just voiceovers.
Yeah,
and it's just and he just says these things that, oh, you shouldn't do this or you should do that, and then he makes the exact opposite, and just say, fuck it, I did it. What you gonna do about it?
Yeah, like he's like that writing coach is obviously like he has good ideas. That's why he gets the help in the end. But I think it's also Charlie Kaufman kind of criticizing people who think they can teach you about writing. Because sure, you can teach someone the fundamentals, but to become a great writer, you kind of have to like figure it out yourself. And that's why he doesn't want to go see him even in the beginning. He thinks that his brother shouldn't like give this man money to teach you how to write. It's not going to work. But once again, I think it's him kind of like realizing that there are conventional methods that actually do work, but also and sometimes you need to use them. Like he's making a movie about himself, a man who doesn't really speak much other than in short like nervous sentences to other people. Like he has a lot of inner monologue. So what do? Well, you gotta have voiceover. Like, I would say this is like an experimental movie.
Oh yeah.
Even though that sounds even more pretentious, but like like this and I walk with me here. This and Tetsuo is kind of like in the same genre. They're both experimental.
Yeah, I'll agree. I agree, definitely.
So it doesn't have to be like...
Tetsuo is more in the visual, and this is more in the writing.
But they're both experimental.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just talk about the writing coach, because that is a real guy, that writing coach.
Oh, he is.
And played by Brian Cox. And the actual writing coach, he was the one who decided Brian Cox.
Oh, okay.
Who do you want to play you? Oh, Brian Cox would do.
Well, yeah, so that's cool.
Rord Mckee is a script guru.
Yeah, because he like you said, he's obviously like saying like these script gurus, they're hacks basically. Like if you can't do, you teach. That's a classic, Yeah. And he is like he's criticizing a lot of people in this, but they seem to go along with it, because I watched an interview. I sent you the link before, where the author of the book, what's her name? Susan Orlean, right? Orlean, yeah.
Orlean,
or something like that. Yeah,
Susan.
And when she first got, no, she didn't. She got to watch a rough cut of the movie. No, she got to read the script right at first. Yeah, she read the script and said, "No, you can't film this. It makes me look horrible."
Yeah.
Because in the end, it's not her. It's the fictional version of her. But she went along with it because she thought like, well, he's got something going on here. I'll allow him to make me into the villain in the end of my own book.
Yeah, because he also say like, well, I'll make myself look bad too. So.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. He's a complete like social failure in this movie. And the same thing then with this Rord Mckee character. Like, he's obviously, like, dragging him a little, but at the same time acknowledging, the legitimate, like, qualities of his teachings, or whatever you want to call it. And I think it's very, very adult of both those two to, like, say, all right, you got something there. You can put it in the movie,
So, just... quick tangent with Rord Mckee. You want to know what he has written?
Yeah.
So he's written mostly TV show episodes for the shows Double Dare, Spencer for Hire, Without Walls and Abraham. Never heard of any of those.
No.
But he has consulted in two movies.
Yeah.
Barbie and the Nutcracker and Barbie and Rapunzel.
Yeah. So he's like when a musician is going to put together like their first album, and they need musicians studio musicians. He's like one of those guys. He's what do you call like script doctors?
Yeah,
they do like uncredited rewrites of stuff because he's just a guy that hangs around. So his job is to like patch up stuff. Yeah. He's not a great writer by himself, but he can fix other people's stuff. But, yeah, and then it's perfect that he like his career never took off, so he's just teaching other people how to start a career.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, apparently, a lot of people really like him.
I'm sure
Peter Jackson has said the guru of gurus. And he's helped a lot of Pixar movies, like all Toy Story movies and Finding Nemo. He's been in there.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
So he's been.
You know what? These are all movies with great structure.
Yeah. So it's been having his fingers in a lot of pies, but never credited.
Yeah, and that makes total sense.
Yeah,
and it's kind of funny then the scene because you think when Charlie goes to watch his talk or whatever it is, you think that he's going to, because he's basically going there to like one up him. That's when he asks his question like, oh, what if you're writing a story about this and this and this? And he's going to stump Rord Mckee. But it ends with Rord Mckee screaming at him like, you're a moron, just write it this way. And that's the way it ends up because it works.
And I think that is sort of, when he said that in that rant, I felt that to my core, and I really felt that about this movie. When he says, why are you wasting 2 hours of my life on this movie? And at that point, I was just, I mean, this guy's right. He knows what he's talking about. Charlie
Kaufman felt that too. That's why the last act is a regular action thriller.
And again, this is the thing. Just because you say in the movie that it's boring and it's wasting my time doesn't mean it's not wasting my time.
But I gotta say, the whole wasting, because I think that the boring parts or whatever you want, the first two acts of the movie, the first hour of the movie, for me it works because I think it's interesting to explore Charlie Kaufman as a character. For me, it was never boring. Sure, it's very meandering, but it still says a lot about him as a person and as a screenwriter. So that's why I didn't find it boring.
Yeah, I mean, so I think it sort of nags me because he
points it out.
Yeah. I wouldn't have cared as much if he wouldn't have sort of stuck his head out and said, I know this is bad, but it's on purpose. And then just went back into the movie. I mean, that's sort of, it bugs me. It would be more interesting to be able to write it off as, well, he had a trouble doing this, so he did with the best he could. But no, he has to make a point that says, well, you know, I could do better. I don't wanna. Bye. It's I don't know. It's a slap in the face, sort of.
Yeah. No, but then now I understand your point of view.
So yeah, but again, it isn't a waste of time. It was just my feelings at that time.
Yeah.
So again, I reiterate what I said before. If you have any interest in movies, you should see this. But if you don't have any interest in movies, if you only watch movies to sort of just put something on Friday night after work, just turn off your brain and watch a good movie, don't watch it. Don't watch this one.
This is not it. Yeah,
no. You can watch the I don't remember that the movie's called now. The Stephen King movie that everyone likes.
What, The Shining?
No, the prison movie, not Green Mile.
Shawshank Redemption.
Shawshank Redemption. You can watch that one. That's perfect for Friday night.
It's a great movie. Yeah,
perfect
absolutely.
for Friday night. So yeah.
But I gotta say, like, though, if you like want to get into, get into watching movies
professionally.
I don't actually know how to say it. But more analytically, and not just as entertainment, but as, you know, to learn about movies and maybe kind of broaden your horizons. I think this is a great conversation starter, especially if you have, like in this case, like two people who might not completely agree on you know, the movie. It makes for good conversation. And especially then to break down each scene, because that's literally what the movie is. It's, like I said, it's a video essay, a movie essay, where he's kind of doing that for you. So there's great talking points about it.
Yeah, and that's sort of also a thing that it's good and bad for me, because he sort of doesn't let you think about the movie, because he does that for you, in not everything, but a lot of aspects.
Yeah,
like the symbolism of things. He just flat out tells you, this means this, so you know.
Yeah, but I think that's why I mean it's a good, like, entry point, because it is his most accessible movie. Like I mentioned, the last Charlie Kaufman movie I watched was his last one, made in 2020, I think. What is it called? I'm Thinking About Ending Things.
Right.
And that one is so subtle, and like it doesn't tell you anything. So I watched it with my mom. No offense, but maybe not the greatest person like talk about movies on this level with. But still, we had a conversation about it because we were trying to figure it out. Because both of us were struggling, like, what is it actually about? We got some of the things, but then it's like, what is really going on here? And that was too, like, obfuscating his thoughts and ideas about the story and the characters. Where this is, he kind of lays it out for you, and then you can, after the movie, you can continue that conversation and, you know, wax poetic about, you know, the things he mentions in the movie. So, yeah, like I said, it's an accessible Charlie Kaufman movie, which we don't get a lot of.
Yeah.
So that's also why I enjoyed it.
Yeah. So, just a little trivia that I read. There's a lot of trivia of this movie.
Yeah.
But apparently, Joaquin Phoenix was in the running to play LaRoche. Chris Cooper's. Yeah.
Yeah. But he's too young.
Yeah, but apparently he came far in the process, and then he said, "This is not right for me," and left. So he put himself out of the running for the movie.
That's another sign of a good actor. Is like you knows when, like, no, I'm gonna lose a bunch of money, but this isn't right for me.
Yeah.
I'll step down. It's not right for me or the movie. Yeah. Well, Joaquin Phoenix, hell of an actor.
And also, again, back to the Rord Mckee character. He has officially said he's not against the use of voice-over narration, despite what Charlie Kaufman says.
Yeah, it might be that he heightened some of the characters. It makes sense.
Yeah, but he did add and say his point is voice-over narration must add to the story, not describe what is already seen on the screen. Otherwise, there's no reason for it.
Otherwise, it becomes that's my problem with musicals. That the songs are just like, this is what you're supposed to think. Yeah, I was like, shut up. Yeah, so that makes sense. Yeah,
so that's his point, and I guess it's easier to say to beginners, don't use it, than try to explain the shades of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely. You'll figure that out as you go along, and you realize where it's actually apt to use voiceover. Yeah.
And then just some interesting tidbits. All the main stars from Con Air is in this movie.
Yeah, I thought of that. Even though John Cusack is like literally in the movie for 2 seconds, which I thought was also kind of a fun idea that the movie partly takes place during the making of Being John Malkovich.
Yeah.
Malkovich. So they had to recreate a bunch of sets and bring in John Cusack literally for 2 seconds just to like show that, hey, he's the star in Being John Malkovich. Which, if you want to talk about self-masturbatory, Jesus Christ! Like, remember this movie I wrote? Yeah, this is what I did during that movie.
Yeah, let's do that again. And there are a lot of good actors in this movie. Like, almost every speaking character is like a famous actor.
Yeah.
It's insane.
I forget her name, but I really like
Tilda Swinton?
Tilda Swinton, of course. Yeah. No, but she plays the like producer or executive or something. But no, the waitress that gives him the key lime pie.
Oh right, yeah.
What's her name? I love her, but I keep forgetting her name.
I remember. I don't think I ever.
She's in Arrested Development. She played Caesar's wife in the new Planet of the Apes movies, which no one cared because it's such a small role.
Yeah, no, I don't think I ever knew her name.
Hold on, I gotta look this up.
Judy Greer.
Yes, thank you, Judy Greer. Yeah. She keeps popping up in like small roles in so many things. Not always great things, but it feels like she has like this love for, especially like sci-fi stuff, because she did Planet of the Apes, small part. She just wanted to be in Planet of the Apes, and she has this super small part in the Jurassic World movie. Unfortunately, a bad movie, but she was part of Jurassic Park, the franchise. She keeps doing these little things, and I really appreciate that and like her as an actress.
And apparently Doug Jones is in this movie, but I did not see him.
Yeah, I saw him in the cast list, but I don't know who he's supposed to be.
Is someone Augustus Marjorie? I don't know who the fuck that is.
You know what? He might have been cut out, because I know that was a trivia I read. Stephen Tobolowski is he's credited in the credits, but he's not in the movie because all his scenes were cut. And I know that the author of the book, Susan Orlean, she had a cameo, which would be weird because Meryl Streep is playing her, so I don't know. But still, she was cut as well, so there might be a lot of people who will just cut out of the movie.
Yeah. And the last two interesting thing is this is on Roger Ebert's greatest movies list.
Yeah, which once again I see that. Yeah. Because it is like it's truly unique. I mean, they talk about it in the movie that there hasn't been like any like evolution of cinema hasn't. There hasn't been an evolution of cinema since.
Well, no new genres
since it is Pasolini made the mockumentary.
Yeah. Mockumentary is the last new genre.
Yeah, so this is. I don't know, because it didn't like become this like great classic that everyone talks about, but this is trying to do something new.
Yeah, definitely.
So I can see why people like Roger Ebert put it on a list of like movies you have to watch. Because as a cinephile, this is the kind of movies you kind of look for, like something new. It doesn't have to be perfect, but at least it's different,
Well, and the last thing is Donald Kaufman, first fictional character ever to be nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah, which is so weird. That Donald Kaufman was nominated for an Oscar, even though it was Nicolas Cage playing a fictional character.
Yeah.
You know what? For as much shit as I give the Academy, good on them for having some humor.
Yeah. So that's the interesting trivia I found. There are a lot more.
There's a lot. I read some of it. It's a lot.
These are the highlights, I'd say.
There is one where you realize that Charlie Kaufman could have just kept writing. Like this is one of those stories that he would start. It would basically be him journaling, because there's a moment when the script is done and they'd started shooting the movie, where Susan Orlean she visited the set. Because she's involved, so she gets to visit the set. And Nicolas Cage, like, oh look, the real Susan Orlean and the real Charlie Kaufman is here, and like introduced them. Which that when she described that in that interview, that sounded very Nicolas Cage, like that's something he would do, like yeah. But anyway, and she says, oh, I'm kind of embarrassed to be here, because of the script. And he's like, not as embarrassed as I am, and just ran away and didn't talk to her for a year. That's like a scene straight out of the movie. But since the script was already finished and they started shooting, he couldn't put that in the script. Otherwise, he would have, I think. This is one of... It's kind of like... whatever. It's kind of like his movie he made after this, I think. The Schenectady, New York, where it's a playwriter who's like recreating New York City for a play he's writing. And
okay.
I haven't seen it. I've just read about it because
Oh.
I feel it's like that's too much for me. Some point maybe when I'm older and more wise. But it's basically a screenwriter who he keeps adding on bits to his script, and so he has to keep building these sets. So he's basically recreating 1-to-1 scale New York in this warehouse or whatever. Because he doesn't want to. There's obviously something going on where he doesn't want to finish the creative process, because if he does, that means that it's over.
Yeah.
And I got the same, and it's written by Charlie Kaufman, which feels kind of personal as well. Then when you think about how he wrote this movie, because I think he could just when he started writing this script, it feels like he could just keep writing it, because he'll just put reality into it, so it doesn't have to end. So. Once again, why I think he then used classic structure, third act structure, to actually put an end to it, so you wouldn't just maniacally keep writing forever. Once again, very meta, very interesting, but also kind of concerning, because the man needs help.
Well, yeah, that's for sure. So, have you read any reviews from the time about the movie?
Yes, and it was critically, it was pretty favorably reviewed. It got an 83 out of 100 on Metacritic, with so universal acclaim. It's got 36 positive ratings, 2 mixed, and actually 2 negative, which I thought there would be more like. Extremes, like, this is the best movie ever, and this is the worst crap ever.
Yeah.
But there's only 2 negative reviews, but they are pretty damn negative. Let's see here. Here we go. It's from the Dallas Observer, who gave it a 3 out of 10, which isn't the worst, but it's still pretty damn bad. Well, here. Okay, here was. I didn't actually look it up. The most overrated movie of the year, in parenthesis, of all time, by people who should know better. He does not like experimentation. Okay. And then the worst one is by from the New Republic, by a guy named Stanley Kaufman. But it's spelled differently, so it's kind of funny. Gave it a 2 out of 10 or 20 out of 100. Virtually everything that happens in Adaptation is almost juvenile showing off, daring to make a film that is in search of a script. Yeah. Well, you know what? That's perfect, because this guy Stanley Kaufman, he perfectly that's what the movie is about. He just does not appreciate it. That's fine. It's not for him. That's cool. All right. I completely disagree on the score. I would write the exact same review, but I would give it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah. So on the more current user side, or well, it isn't that current, but the user side on IMDb.
Yeah.
Most reviews is from like between 2002 when it came out to 2008. So no real recent. Most 8s, 8, 9s, and 10s. Well, absolutely mostly 9s and 10s actually.
Yeah.
But then there are a few real low score, which is saying someone gave a 2 and said, "I didn't get it. I will have to give it another shot," which is weird to give it a 2 at that point, but.
Well, yeah. Because I love people who are honest. Like, I'm trying to be better at that. When I don't get it, I'll just say, I didn't get it, but that might be my fault.
Yeah, and I feel, if you say in a review, I'm going to give it another shot, maybe hang on to the review before you get another shot.
Yeah, or like, give it a middling score or something, so you can, Either way.
But then we have some people who just said it's boring. But there was one very angry review, or very, very. So I'm just gonna read not all of it because it's pretty long, but the beginning of it.
Yeah.
Oi, where to begin? Right. The title of the review is "The Screenwriter Has No Clothes."
Okay, clever. Okay.
So, some stray thoughts jumbled in my head. Self-indulgent, not intelligent enough to support the degree to which it is pretentious, tedious, unfunny, solipsistic, and yes, I know that's part of the joke, but it's not funny, just dull. Empty-headed, gimmicky, Nicolas Cage, 5 question marks. Insidery, lazy in many ways. I think Adaptation feels like a bad Saturday Night Live sketch stretched to 2 hours. I understand the inside joke, the ironic commentary on the industry, the satire, the sarcasm, etc., etc. I understand which parts of the film must be fantasy, which parts may be fantasy, etc., etc. But there was just nothing there that I cared about. I think, and I don't think any statement on the film business or writing being made had any substance to it. The whole thing felt thin and tired. It's not deep enough to be taken seriously, not over the top enough to be considered zany fun, and doesn't have the emotional power to touch our souls. It doesn't even mix these elements. It's like a big cold pile of half-eaten mashed potatoes sitting on a dirty plate. And then he just keeps on from there, but that's the beginning.
Well, it's interesting though that even the negative reviews, they do state that we get the point of the movie. So at least Charlie Kaufman succeed. Like he got his thoughts across. Now not everyone's gonna like it, but I would call that a success. It's very interesting because usually when people don't like a movie, it's like, no, it's just bad. Like here, even the ones who don't like it have to at least acknowledge that the ideas of the script are there.
So
it's not a failure.
The ending on this review, just the last statement on this review that I started reading, is in terms of awards, best scam. In parentheses, I admit to being frustrated by the fact that Mr. Kaufman would probably be happy with that.
Yeah, exactly. He completely gets the movie. Yeah, that's very funny.
He gave it a 3 out of 10. But I understand the frustration of I hate this movie and they want me to, so
yeah, that's great.
So that was the reviews. What will you give this movie?
Well, I've said it twice already, and I'm sticking to it. It's an 8 out of 10.
It is an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Yeah.
And I like I said, the only reason I'm not giving it any higher is because nines are like saved for me for people for movies that like move me emotionally, and 10s are for like the masterpieces. So this is as good as it gets.
Yeah. So I'm gonna give the movie itself a 6, but just because of the concept, it's gonna get a 7.
All right.
So I mean, the movie itself is a 6, but just the things you can think about and the thoughts it gets, the ideas it has, it's a 7. It's a movie that keeps giving after you watch it.
Yeah, exactly. So and because you can have a fun conversation about it,
Yeah.
Would that raise it to an 8, or is that part of the 7?
No, that's the part of the 7.
Oh,
that's a whole score is that we can talk about it, and it's a lot of ideas.
All right,
that's interesting. So yeah, a 7. I probably won't see it again, but I will probably recommend it.
Yeah, I probably won't just put it on when I feel like watching a movie, but I would be interested in watching it again to see if there's even more stuff I can suss out that I didn't get this time. But it might take a while.
So yeah, that was Adaptation, Nicolas Cage's second movie from 2002.
Yes.
First one was Wind Talkers, which we talked about last week. And next week, it's Matchstick Men.
Right.
Which I know barely anything about, except the poster, and it looks kind of boring based on the poster. That's about it.
I think it's that movie that has one of those classic Rage Cage moments in it that I've seen in compilation videos when he's in a store or something.
All right.
And I know he's a con man, and his daughter comes to live with him, and that's a problem. That's about it. That's all I know about the movie.
And it's made of one of the best old screaming man in the voids, Ridley Scott.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's before he became demented and senile. Yeah, this might be good then.
So those kids and their phones don't watch my movies. That guy.
The problem with Prometheus was there were too few aliens in it. No. Yeah, okay. Well, now I'm looking forward to it.
So we'll see. That's next week.
That's next week. So yeah, check out Matchstick Men if you want to follow along in the conversation. Quickly, because we're still like these movies are 20 years old at this point, but we will be catching up eventually with his newer movies. Are we ever gonna care about not spoiling movies, or are we just gonna go for it?
I mean, so where we are at this, I would say maybe in season 4. This is season 2 right now, so since season 3, I don't think we need to care. Season 4, maybe. We'll take that then. And I mean, people can leave a comment on YouTube if they have a different opinion.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. And just to bring it back, if you're a paying customer on patreon.com/don'tmakeascene, and you tell us in like a comment like, no, you shouldn't do spoilers. Hey, guess what? We're gonna listen to you because you're paying for it. But other than that, thank you so much for listening. Wherever you're listening to this, we're available on all the podcast platforms. And we will see you in the next episode where we talk about Matchstick Men. But until then, have a good one. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Madness in the Method is part of Please Don't Make a Scene. It is hosted by Tobias Wedén and Christopher Billén. It is produced and directed by Tobias Wedén, after a concept by Christopher Billén. Executive producer is Annika Wedén. A huge thank you to all our supporters over on patreon.com/don'tmakeascene. Laura Kinney, Mom, and Dad.